In officially launching this report, we are zealous to have evidence. And even when COVID was chewing us, people are saying, where is the evidence that it can kill? Now they have over 300 people who have died. So here, yes, Honourable Minister, I now invite you to officially launch the report on evidence about FGM in Uganda.
On behalf of the government of the Republic of Uganda, on behalf of our development partners, and more importantly, on behalf of the Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development, representing the affected communities, I do hereby launch the report of the female genital mutilation as an evidence-based laud from Uganda. So I launch.
Can I request the UNICEF country rep to kindly append your signature testimony to the launch? Can I request my big brother, Honorable, from the forum, Parliamentary Forum, to please append your signature? And finally, can I request the Commission agenda and Mama Bagite, Chief Child Protection at UNICEF, to come and append as evidence that this has taken place. Ubos, where is Ubos? Yes, Ubos, please. You're very important in these things. And since this happens to the youth most, the youth, we don't want to leave anybody behind. And a representative of the cultural, I had somebody from Sabini, the representative of the cultural entity, the Sabini. Kindly come and append your signature. Thereafter, I'll be requesting my colleague, the Commissioner for Gender, to see off the Minister to yet another serious engagement. Thank you very much, Honourable Minister, for sparing your time. Thank you very much. We can take our seats. My people, the ICT, can you take us back to Sarah Kaibaija? Sarah, we apologize. This had to happen because of the time that we have. A lot of activities are taking place at the same time. But we thank you for your patience. And everybody out there online, we apologize and we thank you that you really understand that we couldn't do much. So can I have Sarah back? Okay.
Thank you very much. That was beautiful. I was okay waiting. There is no problem. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I just want to remind you a little bit that we had talked about 0.3% for national level from the Demographic and Health Survey, and that the highest regional level estimate was from Karamoja, and it was 6.4. The one from Bugisho combined with Sebenyi regions was 2.6. I'm mentioning that because the 2017 FGM survey focused in on those areas where the proportions and prevalence of women that have been exposed to FGM was highest. what do we get when we focus the lens on those areas? We covered 6 districts. As you know, we are now talking about 7 because of the dividing of an additional district, but at that time in 2017, it was 6. It's area, and we covered women aged 15 to 49. For the national, the average for the 6 districts was 26.6%, meaning about 3 out of 10 girls in these regions of Karamoja and Sebe were or had been exposed to FGM. But at district level, we want to highlight, because we want to emphasize on the variation, it ranged from 13% in Kapchorwa to 52% in Moroto district. This survey on those sub-counties where FGM was being practiced in 2017. Therefore, for Moroto, only 2 sub-counties were covered, Katkekile and Tapak. Nakapriti, for the survey, only 1 sub-county, Moruita, was covered, because the other sub-counties were not practicing FGM. It is this nature of FGM practice, whereby it is concentrated in a small area, that gives rise to such high percentages as you see in the last bullet, whereby at sub-county level, for take in Buko district, of 1 in every 2 girls, or 51%, had been exposed to FGM. In Amdat and Moroto, and Loro, we had higher prevalence rates of 55% and 56%, and the highest at sub-county in Tapak sub-county in Moroto district, it was 67%. That is almost 7 out of every 10 girls and women aged 15 to 49 had been exposed to FGM or had undergone FGM. The legal framework has already been mentioned by the minister, so I will not belabor that one. Now, in terms of the report we have just launched, that study's aim was to explore data trends based on DHS 2006, 2011, 2016. Those are the only 3 demographic and health surveys that covered FGM. Before 2006, DHS was not covering the FGM. So explore data trends as reviewed in the DHS around FGM, so that we can inform policy and advocacy as well as programmatic efforts to contribute to elimination of the practice. And the objectives of this study, whose report we have launched, was that we wanted to understand the origin of the practice, go deeper into the factors that promote or drive its continuation. We wanted to understand how decisions about FGM are made and who are the main influencers. We wanted to identify the drivers of change, not only how it is happening, but if we are talking about abandonment, whom can we go to help us drive that change in the practice, and to identify programming efforts or interventions that have better chances of success. We used our approach looked at qualitative information, whereby we went and had focus group discussions in Amdat and Quen in 2019. We also looked and analyzed DHS 2006 and 2016. You will understand later why I've left out 2011 there. And we looked at the FGM survey of 2016 and 2017. We are using mixed numbers, sorry. Data collection started after Christmas in 2016 and was completed in 2017, January. So most of the time it is 2017. This is a summary of the results that we collected from qualitative interviews. Or rather than saying highlights the most significant and most common outcomes that we received when we met with the different focus groups. One, as is known, practices rooted in ancient cultural traditions. The issue here is cultural traditions. And it was emphasized that originally the purpose was to reduce sexual desire and improve women's well-being so they don't burn in the absence of their male partners when they would have gone out for a long time for cattle rustling or for hunting or for whatever other men's business. It was emphasized that men would be out for many months on end and the women would be alone. Two, right of adulthood. These are non-facts, but it is important that we highlight them, that we had it from the communities, we had it from the people practicing the FGM. It is also important for economic gain from bride price, because a woman who is not circumcised or a girl who is not circumcised may not get married, and even if she does, the bride price will be very low or none. Very important to the women, including women who support abandonment but continue with the practice today, is the measure of worthiness within your community. And cut women are heavily stigmatized. They are looked at as dirty or smelly because they are not cut. And cut women are prevented from performing daily activities. For example, fetching water, and you know these areas are dry areas, especially the Karamoja part. You can't fetch water from the same well. Either your children will go or neighbors will help you. You cannot pick up cow dung, and remember this is important, they use it for putting on their floors so that their homes are not dusty. You cannot climb the granary to collect grains if you are circumcised for food. So if you are alone in the house the whole day, you are going to starve the whole day. Even if that granary is in your compound, you cannot climb it to collect food out of it. And this is important. I was almost traumatized hearing them say this. And cut women are humiliated in life and death. Above is life, but death. If you die, your body cannot go out. Let's say you have died in the hospital, it cannot enter the heart through the main door. They have to break the wall to pass the body through. Or if you've died in the house, they have to break the wall to pass the body through. They will not let it go through the main door. So you are humiliated in life and in death. This measure of worthiness, I feel, was emphasized by the women as something that makes them go for it, even if some of them would have supported abandonment and still support it in their heart. It is a social event. In a social event, FGM women are not allowed to participate. For example, during circumcision, whether of a male child or a female child, every family whose child is getting circumcised must have a guest of honor. The guest of honor must be male and must come with a woman. If his wife is not circumcised, she's not allowed to go to her husband. The husband has to find another kind of woman to go with him, or hire somebody and pay her to go with him. So you see, this would weaken the relationship of that man with his wife, because the wife becomes an inconvenience. So these are the main highlights from the qualitative interviews. In terms of the Demographic and Health Survey, 2006 up to 2011, this, on the prevalence, you can see we are talking about 0.3 on the last set of bars. Rural is 0.37 for 2016, but 0.18 for urban. You can see that there is variation. Actually, the rural prevalence is higher than the urban prevalence. And when you go to 2006, you see the same thing, whereby in urban, we have about 0.2% prevalence rate. That's 2 out of 10. Rural areas, it is 0.74. I'm skipping 2011 because you can see the difference is not that big in 2011. Throughout the data of DHS 2011, we could see that it was not consistent with what we are reading from 2006 and what we are seeing in 2016. That's why when you go through the report, you will discover that we worked with 2006 and 2011 and 2016, and we left out 2011 because that needed more time, in-depth research to find out the reasons for the variation. Prevalence by education level, the highlight is you will notice that women in 2016 that had no education had the highest prevalence level. And so did they in 2006. The difference for 2011 is small. So I'll be skipping 2011. In terms of wealth, because you know the Demographic and Health Survey looks at quintiles, divides the population of households into 5 groups of equal numbers, that is 20%. So when we talk of the lowest wealth quintile, we are talking of the bottom 20% of the households. Highest FGM prevalence was observed among girls and women from households in the lowest 20% of the households, lowest in terms of health. That is, we are talking about DHS. This is about awareness. We do not see that big variation in terms of awareness among rural and urban, but it is interesting to note that urban still shows a higher level of awareness. It is, and therefore, there's a lot of work that needs to be done in the rural areas. I want also to emphasize that we analyze this information further by looking at odds ratios. Odds ratios are very important. They are very different from the correlation coefficients because odds ratios tell you how the presence or absence of a property has an effect on the presence or absence of another property. Since we are looking at individual girls and women aged 15 to 49, and at different variables concerning them, odds ratios were the right approach because we are looking at association by effect. The key message from the results were, 1, FGM in Uganda is strongly associated with ethnicity. We know that because of the localization, but there is, I'm saying, like we knew there was COVID and people were asking for evidence, we have evidence that it is really driven by ethnicity. And also from these analyses of the two DHSs, 2006 and 2016, we observed that other education level, residence, whether in urban or rural, wealth quintile, region, seemed less important. Yes, we have noticed that rural women have higher levels of prevalence of FGM, but in terms of statistical significance, we are saying these factors appeared. Here is an interesting table. You will notice that looking at the FGM, the 2017 FGM survey now, more than 93% across all districts had heard of circumcision. Not surprising because it's happening among them. And the percentages of those that are circumcised were higher in Karamoja than in Eastern. This has been shocking to some people, so I want to re-emphasize that we are looking only at sub-counties where it is being practiced, not at the whole district. Although Moroto we looked at only 2, Nakapuprit at 1, and Amdat at 4 sub-counties, In the other districts, it is a long list of sub-counties, and we wouldn't put them there. Besides, we are getting average over all those sub-counties in those districts, and that's why we are using it. I want us to notice in the third column that the age at circumcision is lower in Karamoja region than in the 3 districts combined that we have nicknamed Eastern. Who is encouraging these girls and women to have circumcised? Please, we observe some of them said it is the mother. That is 35 out of 100, almost 4 out of every 10. And almost 2 out of every 10 said it was the father. The husbands choose already women who have already gone through FGM. So we are seeing only 8 out of 10. So the biggest influence is the mother herself, who has gone through the practice and who knows how much the daughter will be stigmatized if she does not undergo this cutting. Additional highlights: among Pokot in Karamoja, FGM is still mostly performed among young and married girls. And the mutilation of older women is not as common except in Sebin. It is becoming common in Sebin because men are starting to see that given the circumstances and the complications that come with cutting, they don't mind marrying an uncut woman. But when the woman gets married, because of the member of the social stigmatization, these women, after they are married, feel they want to go through with the practice. What was also shocking in the FGM 2017 survey was that higher prevalence rates were accompanied with high awareness, as you have seen, meaning being aware is not helping these women decide not to go through with the cutting. There was widespread support of abandonment of the practice among women and community members that we talked to, but due to strong social pressure, willingness to promote it, meaning to join campaigners. For example, I've come from Ministry of Gender or from wherever, to campaign, to educate against FGM, the willingness is low. Support for abandonment is stronger in the presence of perceived gains. For example, if people know that if their daughters are left alone, they will be supported through education because finding the school fees is a challenge. If government will invest more in the region, for example, as the minister mentioned, by providing funding for programs that help with livelihood, there would be increased practice of the willingness to abandon. So they use this as a bargaining chip to get better health and education services. This data is a small sample of what is in the 2017 report, but we want to note, in the first column, we are talking about what proportion of women would encourage community members against cutting their daughters. Please note that except for Buko and Moroto, the percentages are above 70. But even with Buko and Moroto included, the average is 7 out of every 10 would encourage their relatives. But when the same women are asked, do you support your own son, and now it is in your household, to marry? Only a cut girl. You can see that when it comes to marriage, this question is supposed to be to marry only a cut girl. You see that it is 4%. it is only 4%. The challenge we see is the conflict between personal held opinions and actual practice. What is happening today? We know that the legal framework has been strengthened. Abandonment of FGM. We want to note we found out in the field that that has pushed the practice underground. FGM is still happening in secret, mostly at night, in the mountains and valleys of these places. But another very sad situation we found is medicalization. Among Sabine older women, especially during childbirth, because they are sensitive about being shamed due to their status as uncut women, many of them ask the traditional birth attendant or the nurse in a health facility where they give birth to please cut them without even the knowledge, because we talked to men as well. We also noticed that male circumcision is a main driver of this female practice today. Because as I've said, uncut women cannot participate in it. Even if your husband is chosen as a guest of honor, you cannot go with him. So the drivers of change, we would think, that are in place are the anti-FGM legal framework. Religion, we talked in the focus group discussion to religious leaders across all denominations. They were supporting abandonment and trying to encourage their parishioners, their members, to take advantage of opportunities and other opportunities that could keep them busy and away from harm. Schooling has also come out as a strong driver of change, and that has implications in terms of our interventions. Apart from talking to them and educating them, what else can we do? The only challenge we found on schooling was that during holiday time, when girls return home, the women told us, some of the young women, that they were cut during holiday time. And then they don't allow you to go back to school, they force you to get married. Of the ladies insisted they got cut on their own because of peer pressure and because of knowing the social acceptability of FGM. We feel this is a stronger force than all the others that we have mentioned as drivers. Therefore, sensitization campaigns and increased awareness would help deal to improve on the feeling of pressure and of the need to be socially accepted just because you have gone through FGM. I thought also that it was important for us to consider who should we choose as FGM abandonment champions, those who can champion this cause for us among the people. We know that for sub-counties that have abandoned FGM, whose cutters have been given alternative livelihoods, cutters have been helpful in championing abandonment. Recommendations in terms of strategies for anti-FGM: strongly recommend that we consult communities and discuss with them and agree with them on community-led approaches. Let us leave them to drive this thing with strong support from the rest of us. FGM is not a private matter, it involves the whole community, so convincing one person or 10 people or 20 people is not sufficient because the community is much larger than that. We have to engage cutters and link them to existing livelihood programs. Some of them, I remember 2 of them in different sub-counties told us, we were cut, we have struggled with childbirth, we are always getting cesarean, because we have lost elasticity and our children cannot be born normally, but we continue to cut because it's the only livelihood we have. I wouldn't want my daughters to be cut and I will not cut them, they said. We need to explore alternative rites of passage, strongly, especially among the Sabine. They said, how shall we be known as Sabine? How will we be recognized? This is our main recognition. So if we want them to embrace our efforts, we have to work with them to develop alternative rites of passage. Sorry. Previous. I'm going back, sorry, I touched it. I'm finishing Mass of Ceremony.
Please, thank you.
Yeah. We need to increase educational opportunities and safe spaces for girls, especially during holidays. We have to continue sensitization work, and we have to engage in rigorous research and evaluation to identify interventions that work and those that do not work. We highlighted where the data gaps are and future areas of research. I'm looking at my time, and I beg to stop here. Thank you, Master of Ceremony. Thank you, dignitaries. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Sarah. Thank you so much. We can clap again for Sarah. That is really, you know, it brings us to speed to understand what exactly is happening. Some of the myths you have heard about issues to do with you don't fetch water because you are dirty. You don't climb the granary to pick food, so when you are in the house alone, you will die because you can't. You are not allowed by the myths. You don't pick cow dung to work on your home, among others. And if you die, your body is not through the main route. They have to create something at the back because you are semi-human, you are just there, something. And so all these create a lot of problem. You have heard that FGM is a social, cultural, economic, spiritual, and religious undertaking. And for us to eliminate it, we must employ all these people. Religious, cultural, spiritual, name it. If we are going to terminate or even to reduce, we have reduced. I'm still saying that 0.3 is still not good enough. And then has talked about the drivers and also has talked about the things that we can do as drivers of change. Thank you very much once again, Sarah, for educating us. You will all get copies of this report. And kindly use it to drive you into action. Don't keep it just as another, book on the bookshelf. Read it, understand, and then we can be able to engage. I'm going to move into something different. But before that, can I say the following? And this is from the people on the machines. Please don't just move anyhow. This is a live show. It's live streaming, and sometimes you're obstructing the machines. So only move if you must move. And when you are moving, perhaps look for a way you can use the, and if you are small like me, I don't know what you will be able to do. But be warned that don't just move because it interrupts the recording. Permit me also recognize some of the people who have worked with us, who are here with us. I told you I have, once upon a time I used to call him my young brother. Now I call him a big brother because he has more money than I am. Honorable Agaba Bass Mogisha is the MP Chitagwenda and chairperson Parliamentary Forum on Population and Development. My big brother, you're welcome. Thank you for coming. Allow me also to recognize Mr. Komakech Orubo Chaus, the Kau Moroto District Local Government. Yes, all the way. These are some of the agents of change that we have. Thank you, Banakau, for traveling all the way. Allow me to recognize Aseko Harriet, standing in for Kau Kapchora District Local Government. Thank you. Allow me to recognize Angela Nansubuga, the Gender Technical Advisor at Ministry of Education and Sports. Thank you. Thank you for coming. Allow me to recognize my brother, Henry Semakula, Principal Education Officer at the Ministry of Education and sports. I saw Henry somewhere. Anyway, he's somewhere. You know, he's as dark as myself, so you may not be able to see him. So, colleagues, they have given us the data. And behind the data, these are human beings. When they talk about more than 200 million women and girls throughout the world have been subjected to the brutality of the knife, these are people. And this should move us into action, from inaction to action. And remember that every moment we spare in inaction, the number grows, trauma increases, scars multiply, damage escalates, and millions of people's rights are trampled upon, as their safety is unguaranteed. Hence, we need to do something. I've already told you that to me, violence against anybody is violence against all of us. So don't tell me it's not happening in your tribe. Do you know who your son is going to marry? Some of the things. So we should be concerned and be able to swing into action. I'm now going to invite a panel as the harbingers of discussion of the presentation by Sarah. Allow me to invite Mase Merod Kayode, who is an advocate for youth engagement in governance processes and development, an educationist, advocate for climate change, economic and social justice, and she has actively worked with young people, children, and elderly, inclusive in several dimensions for over 8 years, making impact in 9 countries. She's not only national, she's global. She has worked from the grassroots, worked with government, civil society, refugee communities, slums, private sector, supported the World Bank as a blogger for development winner 2017, and the UN in Uganda in several activities, with most recently being part of the cooperation framework formulation and the 1 million youth SDGs solutions as a member of the Youth Coalition on SDGs. Her advocacy and strategic guidance to a number of young people's initiatives has seen hundreds and thousands of young people brought together to support one another to cause desired change for development. With the FGM in particular, she has visited areas of Karamoja and Pokot and interacted with victims, heard their stories, shared with local authorities and other actors to get the real picture of the situation on ground. Her CV is 10 pages, but that will do as a snapshot for you to understand, and permit me and join me in welcoming Mase Merod Kayode. Thank you. Okay. Let me also introduce another panelist. This is Jessica Mary Kusuro. She's a mother of 3, a widow but happy. Yes. She speaks in counseling workshops and conferences. She's a teacher by profession, a trained counselor graduate of Uganda Christian University, a lecturer of psychology in Uganda Christian University in Mbale campus, and a teacher in Christian ministry. She's an active member of the Sabini Cultural Institution. She's pursuing her PhD in psychology from Mukumba University. Join me in welcoming Jessica Mary Kusuro. These are just part of the people who are going to discuss the paper by Sarah, and I will be just giving a few questions and then they'll be able to tell us the story. Allow me also to recognize Nanduja Nivatiti from Action Aid Uganda, who is here with us. Thank you for being with us. Permit me to also recognize Mr. Mugawe Rashida, representing Director CID. If we have some criminal elements, she has not come for that. She has come to listen to other things. So don't fear. When I was young and they mentioned the CID around, you'd start panicking and wondering what's going to happen. You have the mic. Marseille, you can pick it. My first question to you is, we all acknowledge that FGM is gradually reducing nationwide. However, we still see some pockets, areas in the Sabini community, about 50%. In Karamoja, very high up there, among especially the Pokot. The Somali refugees around Kampala, so it's closer. Don't say it's in Karamoja, it's coming closer to you. What are the youth's perspective on FGM in this decade? Remember that one girl that undergoes FGM is one too many and cannot be tolerated, like the UNICEF rep pointed out. Just one addition one. What is the perspective? What are your thoughts as a young person? Are you still buried in these myths, and so you fear, and so you must undertake it? What are your perspectives?
Thank you very much, moderator. A very good morning to you all. Allow me first recognize a few people here. Maggie, the CDO, Moroto. She has been very instrumental in issues of child marriages and FGM in Moroto. And of course, once again, the cow. Thank you very much. Now, when you talk about the question of young people, already I noticed when we are talking about interventions, there are not so many reports on engaging young people. And I can promise you, the young people can never be in support of what inflicts pain on them. And the missing link in the fight against FGM has been the young people. Remember, majority of these are the ones who are victim. Then how do you think an elderly is going to convince a young person to stop the practice? The best way to end the act is engaging young people, empower the victims themselves so they can fight. And in some of my recommendations that I already made earlier was, can we, number one, have safe spaces? Because when I visited Kalas Girls Primary School, that was in September in Amudat district, we noticed that at the beginning of the fully blown lockdown, there were 30 girls in the facility. But then as time went on, they were reduced to 21. When I tried to interrogate and ask around, the sister there had to share and say, some of these girls run away from the facility simply because they feel they're too old to live within a primary school. Okay? Some of them are threatened by their parents. The parents come by the school gates and it pose threats on them. The only thing to do is go back home. Or some of them end up escaping, and when they escape because the instability in mind, they're still in that space of should I do it, should I not do it, they disappear and go straight away to Kenya. So at the end of the day, having our parents and just other actors having to be empowered in the fight against FGM is not enough. If we identify activities where both boys and girls are brought together, I already suggested activities like sports, performing arts, because I know of a team in Amudat district, a group of young girls and boys who engage in performing arts, and they use performing arts to spread the message. They use drama to spread the message. They manufacture their own honey and accessories, sell out to make money. So at the end of the day, according to a young person like me, I imagine such areas are disturbed by issues of inequality, where boys are left on their own, girls are left on their own to think. But then at the end of the day, if we put these boys and girls together, okay, to discuss issues concerning them, so they grow up understanding how does a woman feel, how does a girl feel when she's cut. And a man will also have to share, or a young boy will also have to share, how do they feel about it. And after the discussion, they come to a consensus, and that's the best way we can ensure that we, as young people, we each have our backs and fight against the heinous act. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Sarah, in her some of the drivers of change, she talks about going to school. That if we take these girls to school, it's likely to be one of the solutions to, making them avoid it.
Exactly.
But I hear that now, if anything happens when they go back, still they'll be isolated. Do you believe that schooling can be, one of the drivers of change?
Yes, of course. But what matters is that what level of school are you putting these girls in? Because the question is, if a girl is as old as I am, you wouldn't take me to a primary school environment and think I will stay there. The best way is to engage them in vocational institutions, because it is according to their level of understanding. Some of these girls may not really have the interest in reading books. You tell them SST, science, math, no. Identify an activity, say tailoring, soap making. At least I've seen that Maggie can attest. There's a group of girls at the Radio Maria side in Moroto that are doing soap, they are doing art and craft. So at the end of the day, don't expect a girl of 15 years plus to be taken to a primary school. Primary school levels are also there. But then for such older girls, identify vocational institutes, things that they can be trained on, stay for a short while, get empowered, and go out there and cause a change. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mercy. Just one last one. What then do you think should be the role of men, especially young men, in contributing towards having this practice as part of history?
You see, already according to Sarah's report, it's the men's state that is actually a big influence in these women being cut, because the men don't want to be with a woman that is not cut. And every woman, in my thinking, would want to have a husband. So at the end of the day, because a woman is in fear that if I don't get cut, I'm not going to get married. And of course, they've grown up knowing just their environment. They can't think of an environment outside their place. Then somehow, the men have a huge role. The best way is to engage them in discussions, in dialogues, help them understand the effect. If they say a woman that has been cut loses elasticity and can't give birth, that simply means your wife will die giving birth or your own child will die. Okay? Again, it simply means your own sister could die. And when your sister dies, imagine, these fingers are not the same. You could find the sister is a breadwinner. Maybe she's a smart one in the family. You lose your sister, you're going to die of poverty. Sit down and relax, okay?
Thank you, Mercy. I'll be coming back to you. Let me get to Dr. Jessica. Dr. Jessica, can you share with us what Sabine community leaders are proposing to change the cultural norms, the values, the practices in order to abandon female genital mutilation? I've said in the beginning that the FGM seems to be a social, cultural, economic. We were up in arms the other day, a number of years ago, when these people, the surgeons, said, if you tell us to stop FGM, give us an alternative source of income. So to them, whoever is cut, they are paid money. Is that correct? And so they were looking at it from that perspective. Okay, if I get out of this, do you pay me a living? So tell us, share with us, what are these people thinking, the cultural leaders especially, in as far as the norms, values, and practices to abandon FGM are concerned? Jessica.
Yes, thank you so much.
And you share a name with my mom, so I will talk with a lot of respect.
You're welcome. I want to observe protocol, and I also want to recognize my home Hello, Harriet. Yes, please. She's quite active at home there, and since she came to office, we are seeing the impacts. I want to say that the Sabine leaders or elders, the cultural institution which I belong to as part of the elders of the Sabine, are wondering what they can do to capture the young to accept change. And so they are of the view that there should be dialogue, there should be attitude change, change of norms, because they realize the social structure, Sabine social structure, is in such a way that power and authority is centered on the men and the elders. So they feel they should get out of that position of using their authority to assert norms which no longer benefit society, and use it with attitude change to bring positive change. So the elders, like of late, 2019 and 2020, are surprised that the young parents, you find a young parent of 25 years having an adolescent of 12 years. Young mothers, 25 years, 26 years, they are having adolescents of 15 years, 13 years. They are parents, but they are still childish in behavior and decision making. So the factors that originally were driving FGM, like the fidelity and things tied to resources, though they still count in some areas, but there are now some new driving factors, like these young parents who are in those areas where they didn't go to school, they don't have areas of earning a living. They find it very easy to earn a living from this practice. When they go, they are given chicken, they claim they are tutors, circumcision tutors. I interviewed some of them, the surgeons, the tutors. I found especially the male. They are just marauding young men with red eyes after drinking so much. And yet you find a child of a dignified fellow like me being tutored by them. So the elders were saying, what shall we do? Something else has crept in. And so their main suggestion was community dialogue. And in community dialogue, there'll be sensitization of the people and in asking, what should we do? How shall we come out? And then they realize some places where FGM is so high, schools are very few. They are like you walk over 5 kilometers to get a school. And when girls are going, they are captured on the way. And then in our community, women are just like, originally, they are just like property in the house. They don't have say. If you captured a lady along the road, and you carried her like a log of firewood, yeah, nobody would ask you because you are taking her to marry her. And if you are fed up, you can discard her. But the original traditional norms, a woman was protected as a mother. But now you find society with the drugs, a lot of drinking, a lot of defiance in community. And what they defy, like in families, they also defy in society. They defy even government policy.
Jessica.
Yeah, so there is a big problem, but I feel the elders are saying we need dialogue with the members at every level, especially young parents.
Jessica.
Thank you. Yes.
I've worked with government for over 20 years. And since I began, we have been talking about sensitization of these people. What is that we have not done? What is that we can do differently in terms of sensitizing these people? Colossal sums of money have been spent from UNICEF, from UNFPA, from the government, from everybody. And we have sensitized, held meetings. What is that from your psychological point of view that we have not done, that we must do? And then you talk about the issue of women being treated like a property. What's that we can do to stop this thinking that women are property that belong to men? Government has come up with a UWEP, has come up with YLP to empower the women. Is that part of the solution, or you think there's something from your psychological psychology perspective that we can do?
Thank you so much. Previous sensitizations, as I think I have in my presentation, went with a negative attitude. There was a lot of demonizing of Sabine culture. It was called bad, wrong, taken, addressed like you would address the devil for us Christians. And this is a culture where people have grown in. This is what they have loved, and they have been groomed in it. And so they looked at it negatively. We need to change the approach. We need to change the attitude. Go and tell them, yes, this is your culture. Society has changed. The needs of society have changed. And so therefore we need to move forward. Educate them and use them. Not taking somebody to sensitize them from the outside. Train the locals themselves. Let them talk to one another. Like in a few areas where there has been success, they have used the surgeons, they have used the community elders, they have used the mothers. And I talked to some, they said, we are doing this thing of survival. Have you come with the money? I said, no, I'm a teacher. And so they said, if you give us something to survive on, we shall leave this thing. Then I asked some, what is important about it? He said, there is even nothing important now. It's only what we eat. Then I discovered they just need redirection so that they have attitude change and focus on beneficial activities. And that is why, as my daughter was saying here, vocational institutions, vocational skills, skilling them. So that skills for crafts, and they can skill them and they earn a living. You are saying so that property, women are taken as property that belong to men. One, women need to be sensitized to be more assertive and to develop confidence in themselves so that they can arise and defend themselves, not getting in arms, but getting to know that they are human beings, they can overcome, they are able. And then I feel also the youths, the young men need to be informed or sensitized that the ladies are just like part of them. Like what I'm seeing, the trend coming today. The young men who are educated are going for working young ladies. Like me, I'm a survivor. I didn't go through FGM. I didn't know even that it was there because my father was a reverend and we lived almost away from the village within the school. I only realized it when I'm an adult now, married. And marrying a Christian family also, I have not been tortured for FGM. So I feel there needs to be that empowerment. And I know my right. Nobody could talk to me about it. So
thank you, Jessica. Now I understand why you are an active member of the Sabini Cultural Institution.
Yes.
You decided that you go to them, you live with them, you eat with them, you understand them, and you change them from within.
Yes, exactly.
Having appreciated them and glorified what they are doing.
Yes.
Now tell me one thing before I go to the audience. The audience is burning with a few questions before we end this program.
Yes.
Tell me, in your view, what are the key elements of the Sabini alternative rite of passage? What's the alternative rite of passage? Or what should we expect from Sabini instead of FGM in the future? And from today going forward?
In the alternative rite of passage that we propose, we are not going to focus on things that that will demonize the culture, but we want to focus on social skills, building confidence, assertiveness. 2, skills for work. If I move now in the streets of Kampala, the young men who have youth, they keep calling me, telling me, Jessica, when are you starting those things? Our daughters can't peel even matoke. When are you calling them to the camps and you train them? So we just want to bring the mentorship that was done traditionally, improve it, just blend it a bit with what is modern, and then have them talk the language, cook the matoke the traditional way, make the ugali in the traditional way, and then also try to cross the border, because we belong to the Kalenjin community. I even have another home in Kitale. In Kenya, it is just called that the things of women, those things of women. There is no attention that we are doing today, which is so much. And therefore, I want to say that it will be a skilling program. And also, our girls will learn the history and the culture of the Sabine, so that the question of identity will not be on the cutting, but it will be on what we are as a people regarding skills and ideology. And when we look at our history, I believe it will build a lot of patriotism in our girls and their
Thank you. Thank you very much, Jessica, and yes, thank you very much, Mercy. I now want to go to the audience. You put up your hand, and if you have a comment or a question to ask. And I also believe that Sarah is still right there. So in case the question is about what has been presented, Sarah should be able to respond. I hope Sarah is still there and listening to us. Any question from the audience? Where is my good friend Frank? If Frank is away, Sheila will be the alternative. Can you provide a mic to Honorable Bass? Just your neighbor. You can pick one here. There is a sanitizer up there. You know, members of parliament are dying of COVID almost every day. We don't want to lose this one. So, all right. Any question, comment from the audience? And we should be closing in a few minutes from now. All right.
Thank you, Mr. Mondo, and thank you for the organizers. I'm happy to have been invited to take part in this discussion. I just want to make some brief comments, which I think can add value. Our forum at Parliament is called the Uganda Parliamentarians Forum on Food Security, Population and Development. So it's the population sector or side that details us with the FGM and other related issues. I want to congratulate us on the journey walked so far. This is not to feel happy and relax, but to say we have walked some distance. It's been quite long, but yes, we have not yet reached, but currently that we can even sit and talk about FGM without causing chaos, without people reacting that they are attacking their culture is positive. And especially the theme that you have identified, time for action and whatever follows, I think it's high time now we begin asking ourselves individually, what has been my role as a person in the fight against FGM, or in the struggle to reduce FGM as much as possible. I want to guarantee you that in the current setting, you know, we as leaders, and especially members of parliament, there are cultures, or there are some elements that people will fear to speak about in their own localities. Because when you go back, it may cause you problems. People may refuse to give you votes. But the members of parliament from the FGM affected districts, at least I can for certain say they are up to speed, because they are against the practice, and they can campaign well, and a number of them have had good retention when they are campaigning. So I think this is partly to recognize the effort we have made, that if leaders at this level can actually stand to fight against the practice, then we are moving fast. As a forum, we have been conducting some parliamentary outreaches in the FGM practicing districts, that other side of the east. And in these outreaches, yes, we have had time to educate the leaders and the masses. We do some sensitization, like walks through the district to bring people's out, to cause people's awareness. And I can tell you, we have been soliciting the cooperation of the district leaders, the cultural leaders in those areas, the religious leaders, and the response is good. The response is good, and I think the country can build on this. The country can build on this. The group of friends or the development partners can build on this to widen the effort. We also prepared a motion in this 10th Parliament against FGM, and it was presented by the Honorable Helen Asamu, who is one of our members in the forum. Also not forgetting that the FGM Act was passed in 2010, and all we need is now efforts to have it implemented. This observation is to let us know that as far as the legal regime is concerned, really the government is committed and the people are committed to fight FGM. So our efforts should now be focused on persuading. And here I'm taking note that Sarah's observations, I think, as they are depicted in the report, are accurate. Some efforts have been made, but there are people, we need to begin targeting specific groups of people to see that they are also brought on board in general, such that finally we can do away with FGM. Now that the law is in place, we need to do enforcement, to deal with enforcement of the law. Two, we need to continue the advocacy. Let's continue speaking against it. Let's continue having champions against the FGM, as many as we can. Definitely, there are those who are quick to pick up. There are those who may take long, but if we continue the effort of speaking against it. In my own religion, in Islam, there's a hadith that tells us to do 3 things in case you find something bad in society. The first is remove it physically with your weight, with your strength, that you get it out of the community if you can. If you are not that strong to remove it, then you can speak against it as much as you can, such that people know it's bad and they hate it. And 3, if you can't manage the other 2, you hate it. But the hadith says that that's the weakest form of faith. So if you are that weak in faith, then you just hate it and keep on. But the first 2 can help. I encourage us to continue the advocacy, to speak against them. I've made mention of targeting the beneficiaries. The other day, the president was in an international meeting, and he said he does not support bribery, but he wants to bribe some people. He wants to bribe the people who are living in wetlands to get out of the wetlands, such that they can save the wetlands. Because if he forces them out of the wetlands, they may turn against him and vote against him. I think we need to, that leads us to what we are calling alternatives. If people are benefiting from being surgeons, what alternatives do we have for them to do otherwise, to benefit otherwise? But also the bigger picture is, if FGM is a form of warriorism, I am a typical, the highest expression of the culture. How else do we express the culture than FGM? Last night, I saw a documentary of, I think it's the same culture. They are Karamajongs, but I think in Kenya. They used to hunt lions, and the best warrior among them is the one who has killed, I think, 5 or so lions. Now, a program was introduced for them to do, is it called what? The throwing of spears. It's among the Maasai, yes, the throwing of spears. And the one that throws the spear to the farthest distance is the warrior. They even give them trophies. They are recognized. I think we as we as the champions against FGM might have to critically think through some of these alternatives that the surgeons, the cultural leaders, and others could pick up. Then we convince our people. Why would you bury a person from outside by breaking a wall to take the body outside the house, except for the emphasis that it's important to go through FGM? Some of my parents are Bagisu. I know that when a Mugisu man dies and is not circumcised, it is very bad. It's a very bad experience. But I mean, that's not for today. But can't we change this? That a woman is taken through, you have to break a wall. It instills fear. And someone's like, hey, how will it be seen when I'm buried, through the wall? We could have...
Thank you.
Two quick things, Mr. Moda, and I go down. One, cross-border cooperation. The FGM is not a culture only in Uganda, by the way, and it's not only even in the neighborhood. Yes, in Kenya, there are groups that do it. There should be cooperation between here and Kenya, such that, like, the disarmament was done. As disarmament was happening here, the other side, initially it was left free, but they realized guns were going to Kenya and others, then they came back. So the cooperation between the two states helped. I watched pointing about a certain first lady in one of the Central African countries, I don't remember it. She was fully in support of FGM. She said, I went through it, I've taken my children through it, it has no problem. Really, I wish I could quickly pick up the country, but it is there, it can even be Googled. There was a first lady who was, yes? She was Sierra Leone, yes, and she was comfortable with it. So when the world watches this, I mean, she's one of those who should target at international level to say, hey, hold a minute, it may have worked for you in your times, but this time it may not work. Now, finally, for the ministry, I am happy that you are grounded with good data. There's another meeting we held here with the ministry again. The Honorable Peace Mutuzo came with some films that were showing the after effects of the circumcision. It was really abhorring, and whoever watched it was like, "Hey, what have I done to stop this?" It was so bad that it really stigmatized almost all of us who watched it. I'm happy that the ministry has this record of this information. What we need to do is to use it to communicate properly, and also use it for advocacy against the practice. Just carefully that recently the ministry had another problem. It almost fell into trouble. As we are fighting FGM, it ended up also affecting some other communities. So there are those who prefer to lengthen, and there are those who prefer to cut. Both is the mutilation. So those who prefer to lengthen now got up in arms. Even big people, big women, say, how do you touch our culture? And that was a problem. So since these ones are cooperative, carefully, if the ministry segregates them and we continue with one war and finish it, so that the others can be tackled again. The issue of, say, family planning, this is the last one. I'll communicate it because this is our experience. We still have some things we are dealing with. As we communicate about family planning, some people get scared. The women think that family planning is supposed to make them infertile, and then they take long to pick up. Just for the ministry that as we do the communication, we do some segregation, especially given the sensitivities of the people about this. Otherwise, thank you and congratulations. This is a good effort we have made. I am happy with the report by Sarah. It's good, and I think we as politicians can pick up from there. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Honorable Gawa Abbas Mugisha. Those are interesting comments, and one of the things I'll go with...
About her comment, I had forgotten to make a comment about it. Just briefly, we should put boys together with girls, that they understand how the girls feel when they are cut. I didn't find this very strategic, both as a parent and as a leader. When boys interact with girls early, it may deal with issues of early pregnancies and others. But FGM, I think the targets are different from these children. The targets could be, because the children are not the ones inflicting the cutting on themselves. They are cut at a later stage. They may interact to grow up supporting each other, but I think we may have to target other people, the parents and the surgeons. But with this, I think it can deal with early pregnancies and other population-related issues, but not necessarily FGM. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I find very interesting things from Honorable Agawa's presentation. Before you give to Franco, first of all, did that mic? Franco, first give back the mic. It will get back to you. There is a lady at the back. Her hand was up before. So I want to move from the gentleman to a lady, then I'll come to the gentleman. But take this with you, even if you don't take anything from this meeting. The hadith that he talks about, it's interesting that the hadith in Islam teaches them that if you hate something, speak against it. Or remove it. If you can't remove it and you can't speak against it, then hate it. But hating is not adequate. But also I get from him saying that we are not where we want to be, but we are not where we were yesterday. At least something is happening. From 1.4 to 0.3, yes, we have made some strides. But a lot of work still remains, and we must foot and ensure that we eradicate it. One US general said that society begins to rot and die away the moment we keep quiet about things that matter. Let's not keep quiet about things that matter to us. Let's speak about them, like the hadith says, and be able to reach somewhere. Yes, my sister at the back.
Thank you so much for the research. I have a question for
just do this for me. Remind us about your names, then make your comment or question.
I'm called Nivatiti Nanduja. I work with ActionAid Uganda. And my question is to Sarah in regards to implementation of the existing legal and policy framework, where Uganda is really confident on the existing legal and policy frameworks, but in terms of implementation of this framework still remains a challenge. And this goes to the regional cross-border FGM that is happening between the Pokots and Kwen across the borders. You find that this is happening at porous borders, and this has an implication on the figures that we have at the moment. So the existing regional initiatives and frameworks that have been developed need to be integrated into our programming as a country and resourcing. And so this is why I thought we would adduce evidence on how we are progressing in terms of implementation of the legal frameworks vis-a-vis the reality. Because you find that the cultural leaders, the people in the communities we are engaging with, don't seem to appreciate the execution of the existing FGM acts, but they will insist on the culture. So there is need for assessment as a country, whether after the 10 years or more, we are progressing in terms of implementing the legal framework. And if so, it's not very progressive. What can we do about this? This requires reform, but also the different initiatives at border points needs to be more strategic in terms of moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Nanduja. You take a note and you'll be able to respond. Can I move to Assistant Commissioner Children, Mr. Torea Franco? Then I'll go to the cow. And I'll have one more hand, and we shall call it a break. Okay, two.
Thanks so much, moderator. The activist, our young lady from Karamoja, the moderator, you remind me of her name? Manse. I'm impressed with her level of empowerment to articulate the issues. She said involvement of the young people could be the missing link. That could be possible. I really agree possibly with her. Culture is not static. Culture can change. And there are many people who can change this culture, including the young people. However, in Karamoja, my observations in Karamoja is one of the societies in Uganda which still has a very strong cultural practices. In the cultural language, we call them knit societies. If you visit Karamoja, you kind of see like two groups of people. You find the Karal life, is it the Karal life? Am I correct? Karal life? Those ones who stay in the corrals and so on, the cattle keepers. And then as you come to town, you see another high-level society. If you go to urban areas, you see those high-level societies. And then when you see the young people in these two societies, the young people, these ones who are like you and others in the urban society, seems to be a bit not touched with those other ones in the what? In the Karal life. And then I saw in Karamoja, there is a very strong cultural practice called Akiriket. I attended most of those Karamoja cultural festivals. And I managed, the last cultural festival was in Amudat. I visited there, and I was very inquisitive about the practices in Akiriket. I hear that Akiriket is also a sediment of a certain group of elders, and their decisions are binding in most times to the societies. And here we have the young people. You have raised the concern that the young people could be the missing link. Now the elders and the cultural leaders are the bearers of cultural practices. Being the bearers means they are ones who are responsible for the modifications of these practices, the values, the ones you are talking. You can see from the presentation that much of the concern is that FGM is a social-cultural, much of it is a social-cultural problem. Now, if, for instance, we say young people are the missing link, if we mobilize the young people, how would you interface with the Karamoja elders, for instance, the Akiriket, to ensure that the practices, the values, the norms, which seem to be the main cause of FGM, what is appreciated by the Karamoja elders, especially in the Akiriket? Thank you.
Thank you, Franco. Kao Moroto. Then I'll have the two ladies here. Then I'll get back to, oh, the numbers are increasing. Okay.
Yeah, thank you, moderator. Arising from the presentation of the report of Sarah, that indicated that because of criminalizing this act, the practice has been driven underground. I think that tells us that something is being done, not as open as it used to be those days. And I want also to confirm that it is true that this practice is not open. You do it at your own risk. So if we could only think of emphasizing on enforcing the law, I think we shall move greater miles than what we have done now. Now, again, arising from Sarah's report, and as rightly put by the Assistant Commissioner, that most of the drivers are social cultural. If you look at things like a rite of passage, this does not benefit the lady, the victim, at all. If you look at the things like reduction of sexual urge, for example, the lady who is mutilated does not benefit at all. Look at things like, if you are mutilated, you deserve higher bride price. Who benefits from this? It is actually the parents and the elders. In my view, we should be focusing on what my sister there mentioned. We need to involve these young people more and make them disown this culture, because there is nothing they're benefiting from it anyway. Well, we can give them economic empowerment, but if they're still stuck to the culture, we shall merely empower them economically, but the cultural component of it will still remain. The elders are the custodians of this culture and are beneficiaries of this practice. Whereas the Assistant Commissioner was putting it that we need also to engage them, and if we don't do much on that, they may still force these girls to continue with the practice. But we also have evidences that some girls have survived and have never been mutilated. We could borrow a leaf from that and replicate that kind of practice to encourage these other girls to desist and make them know that there is nothing completely they're getting from this. If only we can empower them and make them know that this was an old day thing and no longer relevant for them, I think we shall move a great miles. But we could also think about giving some reward, some incentives for those who have survived, so that the others who are still appreciating this practice should know that it is a bad thing to do, and if you don't do it, you stand to be, for example, appreciated. I think this is the contribution I wanted to make.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cow. Let me move to the three ladies this side, and then we shall be coming to a close. We are supposed to be getting off air in a few minutes. Start with the advisor from Ministry of Education, move to CID, and move to Karamoja.
Thank you, moderator, and thank you, the presenters. I would only like to supplement on the different recommendations, because yes, we note that FGM is such an act that has led to most of our children dropping out of school and staying away completely. However, I listened in to most of the presentations, and we did not say much about the psychosocial support aspects, and I feel these people need psychosocial support, and in the process we could get some of them to be able to return to school, especially the young girls, because at the time the FGM is done, they are considered ready for marriage. So possibly we need to make use of the new sector guidelines for Ministry of Education and Sports to support re-entry of these young girls and child mothers into the school setting. I am also looking at the issue of strengthening the multi-sectoral approach so that we have all the different sectors playing their role for us to be able to end FGM. I would really like to see Ministry of Health, Ministry of Internal and Foreign Affairs playing critical roles too, so that we are able to support the process of ending FGM. Then, because I feel it is everybody's responsibility. And then where my colleague said we needed to engage the young people, I think that is very right, especially for the boys, because then they become each other's keeper. So they are also able to report and protect the girls in case of any incidences of cutting. And possibly this can also help us to improve the reporting pathways in terms of protecting the girls and reducing on these acts of cutting. And finally, I would also like to say that possibly we need to use the positive messages so that the people who are practicing FGM do not see us as attacking their culture, but positively sending out positive messages for them to be able to change their attitude and mindset about the action. And of course, I don't know how well we can do this, but to motivate the cutters or the surgeons that have left this as a form of employment, and also look at the name and shame for those that are continuing with the act. Thank you.
Thank you, Angela. Thank you so much. Name and shame, then rewards and sanctions.
I'm called Miss Mugawe Rashida, Deputy Sexual Gender-Based Violence Department from CID Headquarters Chivuli, representing Director CID. Her apologies. It's my observation that the mostly affected gender are females, who mostly lose out on education according to us, and other opportunities in the country. Sometimes these girls are married off at an early age, and they experience child marriages. Of course, this comes with a lot of pressure from their would-be husbands, and this is where we see a lot of domestic violence coming in. So as a department, we've tried to rescue a number of them, and I concur with the previous speaker that most of these girls require a lot of psychosocial support, and this we do it with our partners whom we have an MOUs, and they provide other services like education up to university level. Others are given life support skills like crafts, tailoring. However, the issue is what they do. The government needs to come in to provide markets so that they can earn some little money so that they can improve their economic living. The other action that we've taken as a department, we've done sensitization not in its general form, but we package it in a way that it's specifically for girls and boys in school. Why are we looking at girls and boys in schools? We are looking at them as ambassadors, both at school and even when they go back to their communities. They can speak the message in the best language understood by those at home and those in the communities. At the same time, we can give them information that gives them a platform when they go back to their families, and they can have a parental-child discussion. Somewhere, somehow, it can help them and their parents to build confidence, and maybe when they go somewhere in the field, they can be able to speak out and stand on their two legs and say enough is enough. The other last action that we've taken as a department, we are in the process of amending our data collection tool. Why are we doing so? FGM cases have been silent on the collection tool. They are registered as defilements and they come as an after effect. Because when FGM is done, the girls are treated as ready for marriage. Hopefully, my sister would agree with me. And when you're ready for marriage, the onus is on the suitors to put in their request to the family of the girls. Sometimes they are even carried away from their homes where they are defiled or raped. They become pregnant, and of course it's a taboo when you're pregnant to go back home. The only thing you can do is to go and sit in the home of the man where you can face more and more violence. So as an amendment to the collection tool, we want to specifically collect cases related to FGM to guide policymakers at national and as the actors ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Rashida. Those are very thoughtful issues that we need to consider, including issues of economic development. I'll have the handy there, then I'll go to, yes, there, then Chief wants to say something. Who am I to stop the Chief from saying something? Chief Child Protection at UNICEF? Yes.
Yeah, thank you so much. My name is Amagi Lolem, District Community Development Officer, Moroto. I first of all want to thank the UN Joint Program, that is UNICEF, and UNFPA for supporting our programs on FGM abandonment. Then I want to thank my mother ministry, that is the Ministry of Gender, for the technical support that they have given us in the fight against FGM. Then my sincere appreciation again goes to the Commission agenda in supporting the renovation of the shelter through the Action Aid funding. Thank you so much. The shelter is renovated, and we still believe that the mother ministry will support in the running costs for the shelter, so that our survivors have a comfortable place where they can really get the comprehensive care as they report. Because in the report you have seen the prevalence of FGM in Moroto is at 52%. It means we need to fight. We still need to do a lot to support the communities. Then I also propose the game changers besides the ones Sarah has discussed. I believe that if we work through the Elders Association and the cultural institution of the elders, the aggregate the Commission talked about, I think we'll really rest at one point the case of FGM. And I also want to say that if we have a very good school environment that will keep our girls interested in learning, that will help us also reduce cases of FGM, because they will stay in school longer and they will also be role models of the rest that have not gone to school, and they will encourage the rest to join school. Then I also think that if we...
Just hold it there. There's something I do with Straight Talk Foundation. Yes. We provide bursaries for some children in Karamoja. But these girls of ours that we are supporting with the bursaries are being targeted by the boys in Karamoja to make them pregnant and drop out of school so that they look like others. What's your comment about that?
My comment is, I was actually thinking the next action would be to strengthen the male action strategy so that the men spearhead this campaign and really protect the girls so that they keep in school. And for those that have dropped out, could engage in other activities. So I think that would work. And I know this will happen through the mother ministry. Again, I know the technical support you have given us is really good. And that is why Moroto is just saying 52%. It means next time we might even reduce. We will work hard. We are determined. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Can I hear from Bagite? Then Sarah, if you are there, you respond to any of the questions you want to respond to, or make comments about where you want to make comments, and then I'll go to Marcy and end up with Jessica with their parting shots.
Thank you, Mondo. Can you hear me? Yes. I think, UNICEF has already spoken. I don't want to take up a lot of time, but I think we have, honestly, I think we have the solutions. We know what the situation is. We've seen the numbers. We've seen the report. We've seen the underlying issues that are driving this still today. And I think we have a lot of good ideas up there that were discussed already today. And I think really the biggest issue is for all of us, all the actors that are involved in supporting this, to follow through on the commitment and really persevere, do that push, provide the resources that are necessary, facilitate the dialogue that's necessary, so that we can actually start seeing significant changes from such high numbers as 52% in Moroto. I think we've identified during the course of this discussion young people as a critical player. The elders remain a critical player as the custodians of the culture. And I think the point that was made that you have to respect the culture, you have to build on all the positive cultural values that are there, that helps to form your identity and your sense of belonging. If people come in and try to undermine that, obviously you'll push back and say that people don't understand where we're coming from. So building on the richness of the culture, dialogues between young people and the elders. We talk about intergenerational dialogue, but often we talk about grandmothers and granddaughters. But really, we should be expanding that to young people, boys and girls, and the elders, to really understand collectively what is the best way to move forward. I think men continue to be a critical group of people to target, but I don't actually think that they are driving FGM because they insist on cut women. I think it's more that collective perception that I won't belong if I haven't gone through this practice. So it might not be so difficult to get men to be active agents in change here as well. I'm making it sound easy. Obviously, it's not easy. I know that this is something that many of us have been working on for many, many years. But I do feel that that we know what needs to be done. And it's just about doing it, caring enough. As you were saying, we have to pick up the weight and carry this thing that is bad out of the culture, and not just dislike it and let it be for other people to take action. So thank you for today. I think it's been a very interesting discussion, and we just have to keep fighting. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mama Bagite, for those very kind and important remarks. Can I hear from Sarah? Sarah, are you still with us? Can you make your comments as we come to close of this activity?
Thank you very much. I appreciate all the input that has come in. I found it very useful. I want also to bring a contribution from UNICEF's Moroto Zonal Office. Our colleague, Mr. Robbie Omongo, is confirming that UNICEF mainly and a few partners are supporting and have been supporting for some time the training of champions in all the districts of Karamoja and the Sabine region that are practicing FGM. Those champions have become role models, and they are helping to engage adolescents and also older generation about anti-FGM so that they could abandon FGM practice and also become champions as they educate them. So these youth have not been left behind. Some work is going on and in all those districts. In terms of the input, I've enjoyed the discussion. I think we have had some very, very important and valuable contribution. I want to say to us that one thing that I would take for myself is the hadith, hating it as the weakest form of faith, because even I talk to women who hate it, but they are reluctant to put that hatred in practice. That's why they support abandonment. But in terms of practice, no, they want their son to marry a woman who is circumcised, for example. And yes, they give their daughters for circumcision, although they would want an abandonment. So that is important. The strongest faith is remove it, as we were told, and that is the call we are all facing today. Action 8, thank you for the question. I think it is a suggestion more than a question. And yes, I agree with you that we need to carry out an assessment of the progress made. So I don't want to comment more on that. I think you put it out very well. Kau Moroto, I appreciate your emphasis that the victim gets nothing. I sat with the communities during the qualitative interviews, and my heart was aching as the different men we interviewed were telling us to stop the women from burning for sex while the men are away. I was like, which woman was burning? I mean, obviously, she benefits nothing from that stoppage of burning, and she was never going to burn anyway. She was never going to burn. That's what I want to say. I agree that really, let's recognize that women are driving this practice more than the men, both in terms of who is persuading the girls. I want to remind you that the girls' desire to fit in makes them move on their own to join the dancing and singing during that long month so that they can be circumcised. and that the mothers had a 35% proportion among the people that were persuading the girls to get circumcised. So yes, women are the main drivers, not the men. Thank you very much, Master of Ceremony, Mr. Mondo, and thank you everybody for participating and for contributing.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sarah, for being there for us, and thank you for all the guidance. Can I hear from Mercy your response to one or two, then your parting shots?
Okay. Thank you very much to all the submissions. First, I would like to follow up with what the Chief just said on following through with commitment. So at the end of this month, UNFP has been able to support the Youth Coalition on SDGs, and we should be able to get back to Maggie's home place in Moroto and Queen districts to engage the actors and stakeholders in regard using spots and dialogues to end FGM. Honorable Abbas, I'm not sure if I should respond to you because all the responses have come. The boys and girls need to understand the cause. They need to be told together, because the more you drift them apart is the more you're increasing inequalities. Inequalities increase insensitivity. Insensitivity is an impediment to development. So the only way forward, speak to the girls, speak to the boys, let the boys know you being with the girls, carrying out this activity does not mean engage in sexual activities. Let them know their biology, let them know what is right and what is wrong. And also remember, prevention is better than cure. If you wait to tell these boys and girls at a later stage, then it could affect later because you're only focusing on the elderly people. Let them grow up knowing it is wrong. So it even eases our burden. Either we have better wars to fight in the future. We're not going to keep doing the same things. So fix it now and do something else later. We have better things to fight. And the commissioner asks, how will the young people be brought to face the elderly people? The strategy was simple. I may not have mentioned it all here, but in the write-up I already sent through. I asked one, have more safe spaces. These safe spaces should be equipped to have a place these people can call home. Have a counselor there to support them because already these girls are mentally disturbed. Now, I'm going to give you two scenarios of the girls I met in Kalas. Defiance has worked for them, I can promise you. Because the point is, they were taught that this practice is wrong, so they had to defy their parents and they ran away from home. The only way now to help them is create a safe space. So when they defy their parents, run away, they know where to go to. But if you don't create a safe space that is comfortable, a place they can call home, they'll defy their parents. The next thing is that they have to go back and face the same parents and get beaten up or get forced into the act. If safe spaces are there, fully equipped with psychosocial support, basic needs provided, a place they can call home and grow, then it's going to be very easy for them to defy their parents' wrong orders, run, and have a place to call home. And also, of course, I'll appreciate what Angela said. I think Angela also focused on the question of psychosocial. And I would say for now, the young people are up for it. I have seen a group of young people in Amudat join the cause. If we can fund more of the activities. And I also forgot to mention that when we're empowering the surgeons, because remember the surgeons want to make money, if you give them an alternative on other activities that they can do, kindly, if we can create market for their products. Because also, having them engage in economic activities when there's no ready market, we need to teach them slowly by slowly, support them slowly by slowly. If you taught them now to shift from cutting and getting into another activity, train them on how to get market, but also create market for them. If it means going to the National Bureau of Standards to certify their products and make sure their products are up to date and they're consumable, then market can even be created out of the country. So at the end of the day, we will have fully fixed the issue of having each and every actor engaged, leaving no one out of the equation. And I think, and I believe, that will be the best way that we can move forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Master. Can I listen to my mom, Mama Jessica?
Thank you so much.
Comments and final shots.
Okay. Thank you so much for the submissions made. I get to realize that people are really getting engaged and trying to see that we really come to the end of this practice. And I want to appreciate my brother with the Hadith perspective. I want to appreciate. I also appreciate the safe homes in Karamoja. And on that point, I want to say that in the alternative rite of passage, we want to focus on who is a true Sabine man, who is a true Sabine woman, who is a true Sabine father, and who is a true Sabine mother. Along those lines, then, the mentorship curriculum hopes to groom the young to grow into responsible womanhood and responsible fatherhood. So, we note that there is this missing socialization in the FGM functions. The community meets, they socialize, they know the relatives, and they do all this. So the alternative rite of passage, we expect to have to do what we do, do a mock FGM ratio, have forums for the elderly and the youth dialogues, and then do a graduation ceremony with the certificates from the community heads, from the cultural council. And when we get this, then we come to say, girls must not be led to get married without the graduation certificate from the alternative rite of passage mentorships, because it will be given to people, girls who are already 18 and above. And then we also said that to the surgeons and the tutors, use them as mentors. And then they'll train the girls from 12 to 18 years, then 25 to 25 like college students, train the boys 15 to 25, and then these graduation certificates will act like a reward. And they will hold it in their hands because they always ask, what shows that I have graduated? I am ready for marriage. So those are the things. Then strengthen the male influence, that is clan heads and family heads. And therefore, I see we have the answers, and I hope that when we develop this alternative rite of passage, we shall include the sentiments that I have seen are coming up, and then see that this alternative rite of passage becomes encompassing in its approach. So I want to end up by saying that we really need to continue dialoguing, emphasizing, but cultural issues need cultural solutions. We cannot just rush into them. Some are even spiritual. And so we need to approach them differently, though other driving factors have now come in, which are related to money, the economy, and also child upbringing in society today. Even those forcing others, they don't know even what they are going into. So those are the things that I feel that the alternative rite of passage will bring up.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, and God bless you. Welcome to Kapchorwa.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jessica. Thank you, Mercy. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, everybody. It has been a pleasure to have you. It has been a pleasure to hear from your dialogue on this very important subject. What I seem to see at the end of the day, that the problem is not insurmountable. It's not insurmountable. Change does not come by itself. It must come through action of everybody here. If we act together, we shall be able to end this fracas of FGM. Remember the theme, no time for global inaction. Unite, fund, and act to end FGM. Until we meet, can I invite my senior colleague, Madam Angela Nakafero, to make the closing remarks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, our moderator, Bondo, for doing a very great job for today. On behalf of the Permanent Secretary, Minister of Gender, Labour and Social Development, we wish to thank everybody that has contributed to the success of this national dialogue. Can we clap for ourselves? In particular, I would like to appreciate the organizers. There's been a team of people that have been behind it. Thank you very much. We've worked as a team. I want to thank our panelists for a job well done. I would like to thank our presenters, Sarah, that has really made a very powerful presentation, which has informed our discussions. Thank you very much, Sarah. And in particular, UNICEF for undertaking this groundbreaking research that is going to inform our work. Thank you very much, UNICEF. In absentia, I would like to thank the country representative of UNICEF for the opening remarks, as well as the Honorable Minister Florence Nachwala for the opening remarks. So thank you for joining us. And we would like to make a humble request to the Honorable Member of Parliament, the Chair of the Forum on Ending Female Genital Mutilation, that this study is critical and will appreciate space to have it presented at the floor of Parliament. Ladies and gentlemen, I had a chance last year to participate at the Sabine Culture Day. FGM is a process of years of preparation. The actual cutting is the climax. So if we are going to talk about alternative passage of Sabine alternative rite of passage, we need to look at the practice which is taking place for over years. Girls are prepared from around 10 years. By the time they are ready for cutting, they've already made up their decision, and nobody's going to change that decision. So for us to work backwards, we need to do the same. And I would like really to welcome the effort of the Sabine community for coming up with an alternative rite of passage. We are looking forward to it. We want to participate in its definition, dissemination, and ensuring that our young people are engaged, but also the elders and the mothers are on board. We are also appealing to other communities to follow the same journey, because enough is enough to the young girls and women that are suffering the consequences of female genital mutilation. As a ministry, we commit to support all those efforts. And what we require from the communities, especially the elders, is to let's be as open as possible, because there's quite a lot of secrecy around female genital mutilation. Unless we understand and unpack it, we'll never be able to come up with the right and appropriate alternative rite of passage. We count on your support. I'm glad that UNICEF is here and other partners. We really count on your support. And thank you very much in terms of supporting us to organize this successful day. We think it's important that the way to go is to engage the elders and mothers that are behind female genital mutilation in Uganda. As the theme is, it is collective responsibility. Time for inaction is yesterday. So let's organize ourselves to ensure that we all contribute to transformative change in terms of ending female genital mutilation. Ladies and gentlemen, as part of the annual celebrations, we are planning other events. We have the Youth Coalition is planning so many activities, engaging communities, engaging young people, using sports, music, dance, and drama in terms of pushing the messages home. So we invite you to join us. Please don't get tired. We need your contribution. We need your support. On behalf of the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development, I want to thank you for supporting us and joining us. We count on your support, and I would like to declare this national dialogue closed. For God and my country. Over to the MC for the national anthem.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, my senior colleague. You know, she has invited you to attack FGM, and you need some energy to be able to do that. And since I noticed that many of you are very hungry, I'm not going to waste a lot of time. But I have my friend who is a prayer warrior. She's going to pray for the food. Irene.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mondo, and everybody else. Let's humble ourselves and pray. Father God, we thank you for today. We thank you for the liberation. We thank you for the discussions. We thank you for the different representations here. Father Lord, we pray that as we continue to think and lay out strategies in ending FGM, we pray that you guide us in our processes. And when time comes, we pray for journey mercies. And even as we go to partake, we pray that you bless what we will have before us. Bless the boys that we'll partake of. In Jesus' name I pray.
Amen. Thank you very much. If I was Jesus, I would say, go ye out there and fight FGM. Enjoy your lunch. The coupons will be provided as you get out. And Franca is responsible for that. You are all entitled to lunch. Thank you.
Double data. Airtel introduces double data. The biggest deal ever on smartphones in Uganda. Buy a smartphone, 3G or 4G, and get 100% data bonus from Airtel. Airtel is giving you 100% bonus data on all weekly and monthly bundles for every new smartphone connected to Airtel for the first 3 months. Dial *175*9# to enjoy double data. Double data, double data. Oh. Airtel, the smartphone network, regulated by Uganda Communications Commission.
The day the world stopped was the day we found where to go. From now on, we are not going to leave anything on our plates, because we've learned to savor the moments that were always there, and they never tasted this good.
It's no secret that ICT makes learning easy.
The strides made in our field could not be possible without it.
And now we